So welcome to the second of my videos about my ICM challenges. And this week we're going to, or this video, we're going to look at the ICM challenge of green. We did woodlands for the first one, and this time it's green. And my idea of picking some like words that didn't describe a place or a specific thing was to really get the photographers in the group thinking outside the box, maybe sort of thinking a bit more in an abstract manner. What this does is create images where you, as the viewer, can really enjoy kind of bringing your own imagination to the scene. You can take what you want from it. You don't have to be told what the image is about. In this day and age, we're told what to think so much of the time, we're told what to expect so much of the time. And it's really fun when you can just use your imagination, let it run wild. There's no wrong answer here. I think most of them I had no idea when I've looked through them what the images even were made up of a lot of the time. And that's really lovely because you can just see what you want to see in the images. If you didn't watch my last one, go and check out elsewhere on the YouTube videos. It was the Woodlands one. It was done just a few days ago. There are 10 in this series, and based on the really good feedback I've had from the first one, I do plan on doing as many as I can. They normally come at about a 2-week interval because my challenges are running on a 2-week basis. And if you missed the first video, just a little recap. All of the images, none of them are from myself. They're all from people that have submitted to an ICM challenge within my creative photography Facebook group, which is open to anybody that's followed a workshop or a mentoring session with me. So yeah, it's a lovely group, and this is I'm just doing as a bit of fun for them, a bit of a challenge for them to get them enthused with their photography and get them out with their cameras. So I hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, I shall go over to Lightroom and we'll go and have a look at the images. Enjoy. So we're through here in Lightroom, and this time we're looking at the green images. Right, let's have a look. So this time I hopefully have managed to get them a little bit bigger on screen. Somebody else mentioned that they could do with looking a little larger on the screen. Anyway, I'm going to walk you through all these and hope you enjoy them. And you're going to see this time, with the last one we looked at trees, and trees is kind of a specific subject, you might say. And so you could see the subject matter. This theme was green, and so I could expect some abstractness. I was expecting lots of trees, sort of greenery and that kind of thing, but yeah, we definitely got a lot more abstract images in this one. So we'll start with this one. And I really like this one. I really like the variation in greens and the colour, and the fact that the whole screen, the whole frame is filled with information. It's filled with detail and texture and colour. I love the variation. I love this little bit. Sorry, somebody told me I shouldn't say love lots. But I do. I really enjoy looking at these bright green areas, and I also enjoy I think this blue area up here is great. And what I like about this is that there's a repetition of the colour, so you get this dark bluey indigo colour almost, and then you get it replicated up here. And the same with the greens, and the little yellowy cream elements pop through, and then you get this little element of bright green. You just get slight hints of it through the rest of the image. I have no idea what it is, and I love that. I can imagine a small animal, I can imagine plants, I can imagine it could be a crushed up piece of paper, it could be absolutely anything. And I just love the fact it's got a real texturally feel, and it's so full, it's so it's really quite rich in its image. So I really like that one. Again, another one, quite abstract one. Again, this is very similar in that it's got these beautiful, vibrant colours. It's a really full frame image. I really like how the top left and the bottom right kind of reflect each other in the colours. The top left, you've got a little bit more textural detail. The bottom right is a little bit more blurry. So your eye does go up towards this area up here. I like how this blue area here matches the texture here, and then again it blurs out. So your eye definitely travels up towards this area. Lovely area here of darker, which kind of just gives you a respite. And the same here. I quite like it. I talked about on the last talk about having light areas. Dark areas are great because it helps to pull your eye into the light areas, especially if they are on the edge. It just kind of almost frames this and just gives it a little bit more shape. I quite like that. I think overall, I don't think there's an awful lot I'd change about this. I really like the variations in green. I love how vibrant it is, and I really like how abstract it is. I like the crop and I like the composition. Now, this one's very different to the last two you've seen because you actually can see what the subject matter is here. There's two, I think two people, could be three, walking down this path in between the greenery, and it's such a fresh, vibrant feel. I don't know whether they've got a dog with them, but I can imagine, I can tell a story. I can imagine walking along this path because the way this person has taken this photo, it actually places me on the path, walking just behind these people. It's almost like they're going to turn around any second and ask me why I'm taking their photo, and it's really lovely standpoint they've got. I love the fact that all the greenery kind of looks almost pastel chalk like. It's got a lovely texture coming from the ICM. I like how the people aren't too obvious. They just sort of, they give an idea that there's something else, and they are people, but it gives a movement forward of these people down the path. So you head up the path here to these people, and then you sort of take in where they are. Love the colours. I love the warmth of this image, and the composition, the crop, it's all super. I really, really like the leading lines here as well, and the textures that are coming from the ICM are super. Back to another slightly more abstract one. Again, the vibrance, the green. I absolutely love green, and so this was just such a treat for me to see so many different greens in one go. Love the texture, and I love the ICM going. I think this is a tree, but you know, it could be something else. Really loving all the different greens in here, from just a little bit brown, which kind of matched the light brown that's just coming through in the plants down here. Overall, I think it's super. I love the square crop. If there was one thing, just watch out. There's just a little bit of a line up here. I don't know whether it's something you've just caught with the ICM, or possibly it's a little bit of cloning. I'm not sure, but I would just make sure that you either correct it or crop it, or just keep an eye out for things like that in the future. But otherwise, I think it's a lovely composition, lovely crop, and brilliant ICM green theme. Now, some of these images have more green in the others, and it was a question, you know, does the whole image have to be green, when the guys were asking before they submitted, and I said no, but green does have to be the main element. And for sure, although this has got less green than some of the others, or less obvious green, green is still the star of the show, and I think this is really super. It's an interesting crop, but that really does not matter to me at all. I look at it and I think it's an interesting crop. I don't think about that in a negative manner. I think it adds to its intriguingness as well. So many different shapes and textures and movement. Absolutely love the darkness in this image, which really allows the elements of colour to really sing. I have no idea what this is at all, but I can imagine, you know, you could start seeing monsters, you can start seeing plants, you can feel the movement. It really lets your imagination run wild, and I think it's really super. I don't mind these white areas too much. Again, just be careful, as I mentioned on the last video, little areas of white that are right on the edge of the image. This one here, for example, I might have just cloned out because it just takes your eye to the edge of the image. These ones I have absolutely no problem with at all. Again, this one, tiny little one on its own, just it catches the edge, and then possibly this one again, just because it's a real contrast. I quite like this one. I think it's a little bit of fun. It does take my eye down, but this area is much stronger, so my eye doesn't stay down there for very long, which is nice because it travels round and then travels back. But overall, a really pleasing image. I think I probably know what this way. It looks like a spider plant, doesn't it? Very calm, very smooth compared to some of the ones that we've just looked at. This one doesn't exude energy like the other ones. This one exudes a quietness, a peacefulness, a calmness. I really like that the green has been possibly dulled down, or the light that it's been taken under is just a little bit, you know, not too harsh. I love the softness. The ICM movement is super in this one. I really love how it's dragged these lines so smoothly that you get these beautiful green, almost ribbons coming through. I love this one where you get like a slight hint of something coming through from the dark. And again, this one, really lovely. Not a lot I would change about this one at all. In fact, probably nothing. I quite like the dullness of this, but it might be something to just have a play with the whites and just see if you like
how it looks when it's maybe a little bit more contrasty, a little bit more vibrant in the whites, because I think you probably could push them a little bit more to just get rid of some of the slight grayness here. But otherwise, I think it's a really lovely image. This is something, I was talking about a calm image. This is an image that gives me so much energy. This feels like a psychedelic moment that maybe I've just eaten a couple of mushrooms or something. Or actually what it does remind me of is I've been for walks at night time in the woodlands when they have lit areas, and this is kind of reminds me almost of trees being lit in the night time. I think it's really, really interesting, the vibrance of it, the energy of it. I love how you've got these lines coming through, and then I love how you can see the patterns of these. They almost look like maple leaves, I think. And I love how they sort of, you just catch, so you've got two very different contrasting textures going on here, which is really lovely in an ICM image. You've got these lines which are very straight, very dynamic, they're quite light, and then you've got the leaves, and you've got the background and the undergrowth, which kind of add a more jagged, more energetic movement, and the colours a lot vibrant in there as well. Quite a nice crop, I like that. Again, just watch for little bright areas on the end. I'd have probably just cropped this edge out here. This one's quite fun, I quite like that. Possibly, I wonder how much this area brings to the image, but I do like this up here, so I probably wouldn't crop that out because you'd lose that. But yeah, just especially for this, something like this, just lose it or crop it or clone it out, because the eye is taken a little bit to the right hand side where I don't want it to be going. But overall, I think it's a really, really lovely image. Now, I have to admit, this one really caught my eye when I judged it. I thought it was really, really unique, and I'm still not 100% sure what we're looking at. I'm thinking possibly, I can recall that somebody used to do a little bit of painting or a little bit of artwork themselves, and I'm not sure whether this is possibly a drawing or a piece of art with some ICM work, possibly some cow parsley, maybe what we're seeing in the front here. I'm just guessing here, but what it gives me is a feeling of a spring, early summer landscape, and I'm quite sure that's not what the image actually is, because you get this feeling of a hill with a hedge and a tree on it. I love these little yellow elements that are coming through, and then the red and then the white. I think it's such a full image. It's such a beautiful image. It gives a real feeling of joy and of happiness, and a real feeling of spring. And I think this, as I said, really caught my eye when I saw it. I think it's very unique and very interesting. And I do encourage creativity in all of these challenges. And I think this person has met that brief absolutely brilliantly. And the ICM is really, really lovely. So yes, super. It's a lovely piece of artwork. Again, just watch things right on the edge, the really light areas. This is me being really picky, but you know, it's worth seeing as I'm going through here. Same here, probably just dull them down by like -5 or something like that on your highlights. Nothing major. I certainly don't clone them out, because you've got those movements throughout the rest of the image, but take them down if they're like popping up on the edge. This is another one where you can actually see the scene, and again, it's lovely. Yeah, having been in a drought for the last few months, and there's nothing that looks like this anymore anywhere, it's really lovely to go through these images again. I think I judged, they were judged maybe 3 weeks ago now, and I haven't looked at them since, so it's really nice. Love the ICM movement here. It gives me a feeling almost of pointillism, or I think that's how you say it, or like impressionistic painting here. I just really, really love the texture, and then this beautiful reflection. I absolutely love it. And then you've just got this hint of these people walking along the towpath, which I think adds to the feeling and adds to what the photographer has seen, adds to the feeling of it being maybe summer. You know, I can almost see them in shorts. It just adds to the energy and the feeling. You can almost hear these people chattering as they walk along the canal, and it's got a real, you know, you can really attach an emotion to this image. So as well as being really lovely composed, really lovely ICM, there's a lovely feeling on this one. And I can imagine if this was a location that actually meant something to the photographer, it could actually be a really lovely one to have on the wall or to share with people that knew what the location was. To make sure I pick the next one. That was this one. There we go. back to a very abstract image. And this reminds me of fireworks, you know, energetic fireworks shooting up through the sky. Beautiful colours again. Once again, a lovely selection of greens running through here. And once again, with a super dark background, which really makes the colour of the elements on the front, you know, being brought to the front. It really makes the colour sing, and it makes it look super. I quite like this element of large bit, small bit over here. It really balances it, and it just breaks it. It doesn't make it too, the image is full, but it's also got space to breathe. There's room for these little shoots of light to go shooting up to the left. They've got somewhere to go, and then you can imagine something else coming up, whooshing up through the corner here. I think it's really nice. I really like it, and I really quite like the composition of this one and the crop and everything. So yeah, super image. This is another lovely image, lovely green image, but we've got some yellow thrown in here this time, and it's a lovely contrasting colour. The ICM technique on here is super. It almost looks as though it's like a grill. It almost looks like a sort of, you know, I've got metal in front. That grass could be metal. It's quite a sharp way that the ICM has brought these elements through at the front here. I really like this texture here in the front here, and then I really love how you kind of got this almost 3D effect where you're looking through the green elements to the yellow in the distance. I like the square crop, and I like the exposure and the composition. I wonder whether if you had cropped out this little brown area, possibly just making it a little bit tighter so it was more about the green and the yellow. At the moment, this just adds an extra dimension in that sort of, it gives the plant room, I admit, up in there, but it adds another element in that just seems to be, you know, an extra element that maybe I didn't need if it was quite an abstract image already. So I really like that, but you could try, these are only suggestions from me, it's not that I think it's right, and I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know how it works, but yeah, you could try seeing what happens if you crop it there and see whether it becomes, and possibly you could crop down, maybe lose a little bit of the bottom green here, and just see if you make it all about green and yellow. And this is where it comes into deciding what your image is actually about. Is it about a colour? Is it about a texture? Is it about a location? And this will help you decide what you want to bring through in your image when you post-process it. Energy, wow, this is like going through the next dimension here. I really like this one. I think it's super. I think it's a multiple exposure with a zoom burst, or possibly two multiple exposures, or two images with two different sets of zoom bursts. But the energy you're getting from this is just super. It does feel as though you're just about to go through like the middle of this and just being sort of pinged out the other side. Beautiful control of the ICM movement. I really like it. Some people say, is zoom burst actually ICM? Well, yes, it is, because you're moving the camera in some way. It's the lens of the camera, not the actual whole camera, but that's still moving a part of the camera. So yeah, zoom burst is a super ICM, and it can bring such a strong feeling of movement to the viewer that sometimes it can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Here I don't think it does. It fills the whole image, and this just beautiful colour and vibrancy comes through. And this one I don't mind. Some of these possibly, I can see this has possibly been dulled down. My eye does sit in the middle here. It doesn't really go up to these little elements around the edge, because they are a continuation, because they are a repetition. And I think because they happen around the whole image, I'm not picking it up as being a specific one point within the image. In fact, looking at this, I'm just wondering whether this is this has been reflected, because I'm just seeing this is actually almost it's the same. I have no idea how this person's done it, and that does not matter to me at all. I'm intrigued now because I didn't notice it before, but you can see it makes a wonderful image, and beautiful composition, beautiful exposure, beautiful presentation. So super image. So we had the yellow flowers on this one. This one's really simple. This is a very simple, very minimalistic statement using ICM to soften the image. And we all know how soft a dandelion is. And I think the ICM has beautifully brought this to the fore. It's made the dandelion look even softer. It's put it in a soft environment. And I think that's really lovely. It's almost like saying, here, I'm going to put you in this place where you can waft in the wind, but you won't be damaged, because normally, obviously, the moment it hits a piece of grass or something else, it will drop its seeds. And so this almost offers this lovely dandelion head a place to move without being hurt, and I think it's a really lovely statement. Green is very vibrant, but then it works really well with the head as well. I wonder whether we could have just cropped, if again being picky, I would just think about putting this dandelion actually a little bit higher, possibly cropping a little bit off here and a little bit off the top, so that you could just maybe put the dandelion somewhere around a third point, rather than there just seems a tiny little bit too much space above it. I quite like the negative space on the right. I'm thinking probably just a very small slither off here, just to put it on a comfortable position. But otherwise, I think it's a really, really lovely image. This one's an interesting one. You have to look for the green a little bit harder in this one, but green I think is still overriding within the image. And this is a lovely woodland scene with the green leaves being the sort of popping element within here, and it contrasts beautifully with these purple tree stems, and then you get all the green elements in between each tree stem. I quite like with the ICM movement that you've got these different textures. You've got this really sort of fluffy pastel-y feeling of the green, and then you've just got kept a little bit of the detail in the leaves, so you can see that these trees aren't devoid of leaves. There's still a little bit of movement, and I really, really quite like that element. I quite like the fact that you've got two trees on either side that have balanced each other. I'm looking at it and just wondering, I wonder whether you did. I'd be interested to see if you tried an 8x10 crop and actually cropped out this big tree trunk and cropped out this side one, and possibly brought your crop down through in the middle here, something like that, because this one's quite a dominant element within the image, and then you've got this light area up here. And my eye wants to stay on here and stay around here, so I'd be really interested to see what happened for you if you want to give it a go and just see. I'm not going to do it now, but just see if maybe taking those edge elements off gives it a different feeling. It might make it feel less of a location image, and if that's what you wanted it to be, then forget what I'm saying. But if you want it to be about the tree trunks and the green elements, then you could have a go. I really like the reds and the pinks, well, pinky orange, whatever's coming through here, because it's a lovely contrast with the green. But beautiful image. Nothing else taking my eye, like light areas or anything like that, so that's super. Wow, this is a vibrant one. Lovely. I quite like this one. It's like a half and half image. You've got all this, I think, ferns in the bottom half of the image, and then the top half you've got all these lovely straight trees that have been pulled up with the ICM movement. This is a really full, really energetic image. I sit here longer and I wonder what this bright green, it almost looks like a dancing little gremlin here, with the head here and its arms out here. You can see a lot of things when you start looking. Well, I'm only on water today, but it's fun to look and see. But I really, really love the half and half element here, and I think it gives a real feeling of the location. The vibrancy is super, and it really shows from the image. It's really showing how powerfully the ferns are so much more darker green and more vibrant compared to the background in the woodland themselves. And it's really lovely, these sort of chocolate browns, and I really like the contrast between the two textures within this image. Is lovely. Something that's not a woodland. Well, we've had a few that aren't woodland, but this is not plant related. This is obviously water. I love this. It is full from left to right, bottom to top. My eye does not question that there is anywhere other to go than to just follow this water down. I'm following it here, and then I'm following it here, and then I'm following it here. Absolutely love the colours here and the textures. Love the sort of silveriness of it and the grey, and the fact that I can just see a few little water droplets here and there. Love the crop, love the composition. Really, it's a lovely, lovely image. This is wonderful. Really textural ICM, and this is really interesting because some people, not some people, I'll say it's very easy for myself to get stuck in an upwards movement or a left-right movement. And sometimes it's so much fun to play with a different movement and see what happens. And this photographer has done a super movement. You can just see it down here. Look at this. It's kind of got like it's a spiral almost, with the camera getting slightly bigger as she's gone out, or he. I think it's really, really lovely. The texture in the ICM, it is beautiful. It looks like a pastel drawing, and then somebody's gone over with like a pencil trying to neaten it up or give it a little bit texture. The composition of this is super, with the elements, sort of the thirds here, with the dark element here. This area is lovely. I just love these round, almost looks like cotton wool, kind of lots of different colours. And then through here you've got this super texture. And then down here you've just got like a relief, but then you have these little hints of what's going on. It makes me smile, this image. I love the slightly muted greens on this one, and it's really, really lovely. Okay, so now we have a water and, well, I'm assuming it's water and some green, probably green grass, judging by the colour of it. Again, this is a beautifully composed image. I love the way that the water goes across the middle. I love the composition, how you've cropped it. The ICM movement, probably, I couldn't tell you whether it's left to right or right to left, but it looks like a movement sideways across the image to drag these colours. It's really interesting because you've got this lovely line straight through the middle, which is really brave but really super. I love the fact that both of these sides are almost reflecting each other. But I don't think, it's not just a reflection or a picture, because they're different. So I love the fact that you can imagine you could flip it left, you could flip it right, you could flip it vertical, and you could end up with some really interesting images to look at, just depending on which orientation you look at this image. So I think that's really super in that respect. I like how the fact it blurs out from the middle, and you've got the main, the central bit is all about this sort of line coming through, and the blues and the greens work really well together with just these hints of sort of pinky purple. So again, super, super green ICM image. This one's a lovely take on a location, and it reminds me almost of a painting here. It reminds me of almost a paint by numbers painting, where you could say, well, here I need to put the purple, and here I need to put the pink, and here I need to put 6 dots of. It's got a super. I love the ICM. The light. This photographer has been gifted with some beautiful light here. I mean, look how it lands just on this spiky purple plant just down here, and how it lands on the flowers, and how it lands here. And this beautiful orange sort of golden light. Really, really lovely. I like how the leading line comes in, so you come and sit here and you look. I like how it's all held in at the top here by some sort of less bright sort of attention grabbing detail. This brown tree with this dark green is really lovely. Overall a really, really lovely image. If I was going to be picky, if I was going to suggest a change, I might suggest you cloned out something like this. If you've got a harsh element in something that's otherwise very soft, it looks like it could be a light, or it could be somewhere where they water the plants from, something like that. You could very easily just clone that tiny little bit over, and then my eye would not be taken. And then this area here, I don't know whether it's a seat or whether it's a bucket. Again, that could be very easily either cloned or cropped out. Again, it just takes my eye because it's a slight contrast point with on the edge of the image. Other things like this don't bother me too much. I'm only just noticing them. So otherwise, I wouldn't make any suggestions. But I think it's really, really lovely, the ICM and all the different textures you've got within here, and the subject matter. This, I believe, I could be wrong, is a multiple exposure, and this is a beautiful ICM image. And when I teach multiple exposures, I'm always saying, when you bring your images together, what you want to do is create something that's greater than each of the individual images on their own. And I can't help but 100% believe that this is what's happened here. And I just love these elements of the just very gentle, because they're not too sharp, these grasses, almost corn heads that we've got here pointing up in the middle, and then with the background or the overlay of this beautiful textured ICM image. Again, beautiful composition here with the sort of elements here balanced throughout the image. This does not detract, it just brings an it might have been quite a dull image otherwise. If you bring this on top, it now gives energy and interest throughout the whole, and the feeling of the movement keeps your eye right in the middle here, and it's really, really lovely. I think it's a super image, and I was really very taken with this one. Very taken. I love the green, I love how it's filled up, I love the composition, and I love the energy. Really, really lovely. This is really lovely as well. I keep saying lovely, apologies. I should use it, you know, when you were at school you used to say nice is not a word that's descriptive. I'm not sure if lovely is any better, to be honest, but it's kind of me telling you a little bit stronger what I feel. This one is super. It really, I love the composition of this, how it's almost an element of two halves, except this half just adds up to 2/3 rather than the top, and this area is the area that has more detail in. So the photographer has managed to balance the area with detail with the area without detail, but it allows a respite. Had the whole image been this, it would have been really in your face, but as it is, it has a lovely depth to it. You can follow these flowing lines. The ICM movement on this is absolutely super, and I love how she's captured this and just moved it. Almost looks like green waves. I think it's really lovely. I love the comparison of the two greens as well. What I would say now, looking at it very big on screen, whoever this is needs to just be careful with the dust spots. Again, in this competition, it's not something that would, if I love this image, and I'm pretty sure this made my top 5, and dust spots didn't count against it, but for if entering competitions for camera clubs, associations, those dust spots would knock you down very quickly, and it's something very quick to correct. You will find that as you do more ICM at higher depths of field, you will see a lot more dust spots. I have to regularly clean my camera, and normally what I do is I work out when I'm starting to have to clean off more than 20 dust spots on every image that I want to edit. That's a really good indication that that's the time I need to go and clean my camera. I've just got myself a do-it-yourself camera cleaning kit. I've not been brave enough to do it yet, but I will. And I will let you know how it goes. But anyway, this is lovely image, and I love the composition for this one as well. This is really interesting. This is a really very peaceful, very serene image, and a lot of the images you've seen so far, the ICM movement has been really big, so you've lost the feeling of what the actual image is. This photographer's decided to play a little bit with quite a small ICM image, an ICM movement, and as a result got a lot of movement in areas that are small and detailed, and then when you've got some sort of bigger structures, there's less movement gone on, so you've kind of kept the structures a little bit more solid within the image. Very green, definitely a green image. I love the texture here. It almost looks as though it's like an oil crackle glaze on it or something. It's kind of mysterious. I'm not sure whether this is a wall or a little church or a little folly. I kind of want to go and have a look and see what it is. The light, again, this photographer has been gifted with a beautiful light coming down on it. And I think it's just, it feels a little bit fairy tale like, and very, very lovely. This one here, just be careful, things like this, and also here. They are areas where you've just managed to lose control of the exposure. This one you could correct really easily with a little clone. Again, this one you could, or you could just, yeah, maybe clone a little bit of this over, but not at 100%, maybe just enough to cover up the white areas. And then it's not really worrying me too much because this area is so dominant within the image, but just something to think of going forwards. I like this. I like the fact that this person, somebody has got a green person in a green field. Whether that person managed to get somebody dressed up deliberately, I'm not sure. But I really love that the ICM movement is actually moving with the person and moving the grass, and everything is moving in the same direction. I think it's a really intriguing, capture using the ICM. As for the ICM movement, I absolutely love what it's done to the grass. I could have sort of dined out on a square just of this grass, and I would have thought it was super. But as it is, I love the sort of thirds elements that we've got running through here. I love the dark. I really like how this person is silhouetted into the dark area here, and how they just sort of disappear with the ICM movement being brought over them, just to give this feeling of them walking through the grass. Really, really super. Yeah, there's not really a lot I would suggest to this one, because your eye does follow. You could possibly just look to where he's placed in this image. He's not central, and he's not comfortably walking into the image, if that makes sense. You could add a little bit more on this end and crop a little bit off this end, or you could possibly make it maybe an 8x10, which would then place him a little bit closer walking into the image, so that he's got more space. At the moment, he's just not quite in the middle and not quite on a thirds area. And although it doesn't worry me about thirds specifically as a rule, it's a feeling, okay? And then this one, I just have this feeling that it's slightly, I just don't read it as easily as if he was balanced within the image. But otherwise, it's really lovely. This one's super. I have no idea what it is, but it's lovely. It almost reminds me of kind of Christmas green tinsel over a wall or something like that. I love the composition and the contrast between the browns and the greens here. Super lines here. I think we've actually got a building in the background here. So to manage to hold the building details in the ICM and the details in the plants, I think that's really, really well done. Almost looks like holly, doesn't it? It looks really crisp here, and then this is really gentle. And again, I talk sometimes in my groups about having an image with so many different images within it, and this is one of those that I could go around and I could crop probably 4 images out quite happily here. I absolutely love this texture with this blue here. I love this area down here. It almost looks like fish scales. This is super here. You've just got a little bit of the greenery coming down here. This area is really lovely because it's kind of muted green, and then you've got this vibrant, energetic, sharp area, and your eye just kind of travels round and round, but it gives a respite. You're kind of up here, and then you gently move down here and round, and I think it's a really, really lovely image. This one's fun. It reminds me a little bit of the Aurora Borealis. Again, not sure if I've said that right. Who knows? It kind of reminds me also of tinsel on a Christmas tree, or just lights. It is really, really interesting. I love the variation. It's almost a rainbow of colours going in here. If you look through here, you've got pink, you've got green, you've got blue, you've got purple, you've got yellow, you've got orange, you've got, you name it, there's a colour in there if you start looking for it. This is a really good example of the crop with sort of the little element here. This is beautifully placed here within here to sit really comfortably. My eye does come back to this, and this is where my point of focus is sitting at the moment, which is really nice because it is definitely the sharpest point within the image. Everything else is like a side player. I really quite like it, but the fact that this is almost without colour, it's really nice. And then you've got a more in down here, you've got the point of focus, or the plane of focus is greater down here than it is up here, and up here it's almost, it's completely blurred. So your eye, this is kind of a like supporting act, all of this. And then you've got here the main singer, and then you've got the little group around the main singer just to hold it in there, and I think it works really, really well. I wonder whether this might have been really interesting as a square crop, and actually putting this dead center at the bottom here. I wonder how much this area of black brings to it. It's quite nice because you've got lines in, but I do feel that there's possibly you can fall out of the image a little bit too far. So possibly less is more in this situation as far as what you include in the image. So it'd be really interesting to see if you want to try a square crop and just see how the feel is. Possibly even crop across here to lose this vibrant bit up here, but just maybe try something like that and just see what it feels. But again, if it's a response to an environment and a location, and what you're showing me here is like almost a landscape, then that's what I'm getting. You know, it could be, and in which case you don't want to start cropping it, because that gives it a completely different feel. So at the moment I'm getting quite an open feel. I'm getting a feeling of a location. So when I'm saying cropping, it's more to do with, you know, bringing the center of attention and finding what the image is about. But actually, if your image is about showing me a place, then I think it works brilliantly. This is lovely, again with the ICM. Super. I think a lot of times when you do ICM, or certainly when I do ICM, I generally work upwards, and I think this photographer is actually taking the ICM downwards with this tree, and I think it's lovely. It looks almost as though this tree trunk has arms. It's even got two little eyes if you look carefully. I really like the composition, because you've got both of these tree trunks here, just staggered very slightly. Neither one is taking more attention from the other, but this one's lovely and strong and straight and dark, and this one's a little bit lighter, a little bit more flowing. And then you've got these beautiful white branches that have just been brought almost to be like ghosts in this ICM. Lovely composition. I like where the trees are sat. I like how the whole image is filled up. Yeah, I think it's really super. I love how vibrant it is, and it's very, very green. And last but not least, we have, I think it's probably like a psychedelic park, I think. Again, this one almost reminds me of a barcode, but in different colours. And I love how you've got all these different sort of, with one ICM movement, depending on what you pick up, you get these different textural movements. So down here, while the elements are more detailed and smaller, you get lots of tiny little lines and very short and very sort of thin lines. And then up here, where you've got bigger blocks of colour, you get almost like a, you know how Mark Rothko draws paints, or if you haven't come across him, look him up. He paints in big, bold sort of lumps of colour, and this kind of reminds me of that. Again, this is one of those I'd pull apart and start creating squares. I mean, like this here, completely not the picture you've taken at all, but the colours and the textures and the ICM movement that you've got here, really, really bold. It's really, really nice. This is actually quite a brave image, because this is a really, really strong element, but because it's so contrasty to everything else, this lovely straight element contrasts with this lovely soft black element, and then it kind of goes across here, and the line and the shadow you've got here, and then there's just hints of it at the top, and then you've got some black flowing through, so then it doesn't become such an obvious, such a difficult thing to look at. I wonder, possibly, if you wanted, you could try cropping some of this off, because this is 2/3 of your image, and personally I find more of the detail and more of the interest is up here, and you've got less of it. So it might have been that you cropped down to get rid of light strikes, but you might try being really brave and putting this line on the center. So you could just make it a 16:9 or something, and just drop it down and just lose this last little bit here, and just see if that makes it even more of a strong image. But I love the blues, and I love the yellows and the purples, and it's a really, really lovely image. So I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough of these super images. You know, it's a lovely, lovely selection of green. As you can see, people have interpreted it in abstract, in creative. You've got all kinds of different crops in here. Really, really lovely selection. If you liked it, again, do give me a thumbs up, do give me a comment. I love seeing your comments and seeing which one's your favorite, and whether you enjoyed this or not, because I have the possibility to do 10, but I won't be doing 10 if people don't tell me to keep doing it. So it's up to you. Till the next time, I hope to see you again, and the next one will be in the house. So the next challenge was for people to take photos within their home, and I promise you that is a fantastic section of images which will be coming your way probably in a couple of weeks. So enjoy yourselves, and I will speak to you soon.